Hi, good evening. We're gonna get started in just a couple moments. Alrighty. My name's Katie Hedberg. I'm with Connecticut DOT. Today's presentation will be the ADA Transition Plan update. To begin, we have a few slides. For Title VI, your civil rights. No person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. We do have a voluntary post-meeting survey where a link will be shared in the chat. And we also have additional information to the civil rights information on our DOT website, which is https://portal.ct.gov/DOT/business/office-of-equity/title-6-page. A recording of this presentation will be posted to DOT's YouTube channel, and closed captioning, including non-English translation options, will be available on Zoom and YouTube. We also have an additional notice to the public. This is on our website for viewing, as well as the Spanish translation. For how to view captions and subtitles in Zoom, there is a Show Caption CC button at the bottom of your screen. Click the speaking language. When you select the language you would like from the list shown. Closed captioning, including non-English translation options, are available on YouTube after the event. For Zoom, at the end, we will have a Q&A, a question and answers portion. Throughout the presentation, you may submit questions via the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We also have, if you're an audio-only participant, to dial 9 to raise and lower your hand. Once your hand is raised, we will be able to see that and unmute. Now we're going to get started with our presentation. So this is the Connecticut DOT ADA Transition Plan 2024 Update Overview and Public Feedback Plan. Our mission is improving lives through transportation. For today's presentation, we have some information for background, what is required with the ADA Title II requirements. We also have the ADA transition plan for what we evaluate, how we address compliance, what compliance issues are found, and methods to address the non-compliance items. Our goal is to receive your feedback, so we want to hear for this comment period your highest priorities and any comments on the plan itself. With background to the ADA, we start with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. This is a federal law that prohibits individuals with disabilities from discrimination in programs and activities that receive federal financial assistance or are conducted by federal agencies. For the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, this was signed in 1990 and is a federal civil rights law that prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities. There are 5 different titles: Title I, Employment; Title II, State and Local Government Services; Title III, Businesses Open to the Public; Title IV, Telecommunications; and Title V, other important requirements. For today's session, we're going to be focused on Title II, state and local government services. For the purpose of a transition plan, this is a plan that is required by law and includes a list of physical barriers that limit accessibility, the methods to remove these barriers and achieve accessibility, a schedule to complete the work, and the names of the officials responsible for the plan implementation. For our transition plan overview, we have the 2024 update sectioned into 8 different sections that we will go through in this presentation. We also have a what's new in 2024 section that were made from the previous 2019 report. We have updated our policies, programs, have enhanced and reorganized sections. We have added new assets and updated inventories. And we've also utilized our appendix to streamline future updates. Throughout the presentation, we have a circle for updated or a star for new to indicate what's been done. To start, we have our sections 1 for introduction, 2 for background, 3 for Connecticut DOT's ADA policies and programs. For sections 1 and 2, the introduction and background, this includes our Connecticut DOT's long history of commitment to safety, reliability, and accessibility, including our mission and vision and details of the department. We also have a number of different infrastructure that the state is responsible for with the operation and management, which is an ongoing basis of roadway miles, bridges, pavement, traffic signals, curb ramps, rest areas, service plazas, and a seasonal welcome center, as well as administrative buildings. For our section 3, this includes the ADA policy and public notice. So in these areas, we have included in the appendix the Title II Americans with Disabilities Act, Section 504 policy notice, the Public Transportation Reasonable Modification Policy, the Public Transportation ADA Accessibility Feature Policy, the ADA Rail Station Elevator Outage Procedure, the public meeting accommodation request, and the non-discrimination policy notice to public transportation service providers. We also have the applicable engineering directives, which include the engineering directive for public rights-of-way, accessibility guidelines, as well as the technical and feasibility form. And we also have the engineering and construction directive, complete streets controlling design criteria and justification process also noted. We also have the public notice for reasonable modification contacts by company or district. For our ADA coordinators, our engineering coordination unit includes 3 individuals, myself, Kamado Simpson, and Julia Cerna. We also have an equal employment opportunity director, Eric Smith, and for rail services, Marlene Cardo, and for transit services, Ernest Wright. For section 3.4, the DOT's ADA grievance procedure, our grievances procedure pertaining to ADA and 504 are processed through a formal procedure established by DOT in compliance with the law. The procedure requires the department to ensure a response is given with findings of investigation and evaluation process that will begin 15 days after receipt of the complaint. We conduct affirmative attempts for substantive resolution, as well as continuing actions where it is not possible to immediately achieve ADA. For complaints that are maintained in accordance with DOT's record retention policy, and for complaints that are not within the department's jurisdiction, they are referred to the appropriate parties with the original complaint maintained in referral action. For 2024, a new procedure item has been included with the DOT's Customer Care Center. This center is monitored by DOT employees during the Monday through Friday. during business hours. They include a phone number, email, as well as this online form that does include a request type category called ADA issues, where individuals can report via this electronic form as well as the PDF form we have online. For Section 3.5, DOT self-evaluation and ADA transition plan monitoring, our plan is considered a living document that will continue to be updated as conditions within the state and DOT's jurisdiction evolve. We will update at least once every 4 years formally, and for reporting and or attachments that might be included in the appendix, those could be more frequently updated as needed. Our progress is monitored through various meetings with Federal Highway Administration, the Connecticut Division Office on a quarterly basis, as well as with our chief engineer on a monthly basis. We have a semi-annual meeting with the commissioner as well to provide update. For our DOT's self-evaluation and transition plan, this has a long history with the timeline since the 1990s when the ADA committee was formed and a compliance report was created. The form and the plan have evolved over time and have included a number of different assets that have been added, as well as new evaluations that have been done since regulations have changed over the years. For the performance measure, we have the bicycle and pedestrian performance measure that's been added to the 2024 update. This number tracks the percent and total amount of dollars spent or are programmed to be spent on projects containing items that improve pedestrians and bicyclists' accessibility and safety. We have a 1% target established by the Public Act number 154 that was started in 2009. Our 2023 number was 4.16. Section 4 is regarding facilities. There is a list of the department publicly accessible facilities included in the appendix. To start, we have 3 different lines: the New Haven line, Shoreline East, and Hartford line. For the New Haven line, there are a total of 38 stations, and this has been operated through the Metropolitan Transit Authority since 1983. There are 25 stations that aren't compliant based on Metro North. 5 are not compliant. 10 have missing tactile warning strips or audiovisual, and 10 have no accessible path between platforms. For Shoreline East, this was opened in 1990. There are a total of 8 stations, and 1 is currently in design phase for 88 improvements, which is the New London station. For the Hartford line, this was opened in 2018. It includes a high-speed intercity passenger rail system between the cities of New Haven, Hartford, and Springfield, Massachusetts. For future stations, including replacing Windsor Locks and Windsor Station, there's a new station in Enfield and potential new stations in West Hartford, Newington, and North Haven. For all future stations, they will be constructed to be fully ADA compliant. Our next section is regarding transit passenger service. This is CT Fast Track for Connecticut. It is a bus rapid transit that runs between New Britain and Hartford. There are 10 stations along a 9.4-mile corridor. All stations are fully ADA compliant. For other buses, we have a regional transit district that run and maintain their own facilities and track ADA compliance. For section 4.3, this is regarding ferries. We have 2 historic ferries that run across the Connecticut River. These operate on a seasonal basis, and there are no known ADA issues at these locations. For highway service plazas, we have 23 that have been fully renovated or replaced in the last decade. Their services range from restaurants, fueling, restrooms, and EV charging at select locations. At this time, there are no known ADA issues. For highway rest areas, we have 7 rest areas that are owned and maintained by DOT and 1 seasonal welcome center. There are no known building ADA issues. However, there are some exterior ADA picnic tables and concrete walkways to be installed in 2025. For highway administration facilities, there are 5 different facilities that DOT owns and maintains. We have the Newington headquarters building that has some minor building ADA issues, as well as some ADA improvements that are scheduled regarding signage, restrooms, and sidewalks and curb ramps. We also have Rocky Hill, which it has some minor building issues as well, and ADA improvements include a new building in 2028. For electric vehicle chargers, this is a new section for 27 EV chargers at CTDOT. We, in the installation, follow the U.S. Access Board design recommendations for accessible electric vehicle charging stations when applicable. We have 3 locations where these chargers are included in the visitor staff parking, the parking lot along the Berlin Turnpike, and motor pool. For our parking, we have park and ride lots. There are 170 located across the state. These are open to commuters with access to public transportation and accessible parking. There's a current inventory going on to assess the number of spaces, shelter provided, trash cans, lighting, and ADA compliance. Concurrent with the inventory, there are various capital upgrades being provided, which include restriping, expanding parking, or expanding parking capacity. For section 5, this is the public right-of-way. For section 5.1, sidewalks, we have clarified that while the ADA does not require installation of sidewalks and curb ramps where no pedestrian facilities exist, where they do, they must be compliant. For sidewalks and curb ramps along state-owned highways, they are municipality responsibility. For sidewalk on state-maintained bridges and property for highway purposes, those are state responsibility. We also have this outlined in the appendix for the sidewalk policy. There is an ongoing digitalization of sidewalks along State Road that has approximately 52 miles identified so far. For curb ramps, these are necessary to provide access for pedestrians to transition from the sidewalk to the roadway. There is an ongoing inventory inspecting curb ramps at state crossings, utilizing Esri tools such as field maps and Survey 123. In the appendix, we have included details on those 2 items. For when the DOT resurfaces, we have the responsibility to upgrade ramps. As of May 2024, we had identified nearly 11,000 curb ramps along state roads for resurfacing. And at this point, 5,000 are left to be inspected for their compliance. For multi-use trails, these are built to ADA requirements at construction date. DOT provides oversight, technical, and financial assistance. And a list is provided for locations in Connecticut in the appendix. For crosswalks and medians, DOT is responsible for maintaining accessibility to crosswalks and medians on state highways. For resurfacing programs, these review existing crosswalks and median accessibility. For traffic safety engineering, there's a study that has been initiated to determine feasibility of raised intersections and crosswalks at multiple locations. Section 5.5 is regarding traffic signals. There's over 2,500 traffic signals and 224 flashing beacons. For the accessible pedestrian signals, or also known as APS, there are currently 265 signals in the database. DOT has updated its signal design practices to no longer provide side street green phasing for future designs, since there is not a way to provide accessible pedestrian signal equipment. All future designs are including pedestrian phasing. with the APS equipment. And in the appendix, there's updated information on the traffic signal pedestrian phasing information. For section 5.6, parking on street, DOT only installs on-street parking spaces along state highways within projects when warranted. DOT does not maintain on-street parking spaces as maintenance responsibilities are transferred to municipalities under agreements. During resurfacing projects, state roads are paved, but parking spaces are not striped, and municipalities may apply for an encroachment permit to install and maintain these spaces if they wish to continue. For Division of Traffic Engineering, there is responsibility for establishing parking restrictions along state roads. For section 5.7, this is regarding bus stops and shelters. The DOT inventory for bus stops accounts for over 14,000 stops across CT Transit branded divisions and transit districts. In the 2019 shelter assessment, only 5% of bus stops statewide are sheltered. A new statewide bus stop and shelter inventory will take place upcoming program that will assess ADA compliance of existing stops. Connecticut DOT plans to identify and attribute proximity to sidewalk and right-of-way ownership to GIS bus stop layer to begin creating a framework for transitioning bus stops to ADA compliance as well. Our next section is 6 accessibility barrier removal programs. For section 6.1, the capital plan, this is an annual report prepared by DOT to inform stakeholders of the department's planned capital investments over 5 years. This includes proposed program of roadway and bridge, public transportation, and facility capital projects. The plan is a collaborative effort and includes feedback from stakeholders, Connecticut metropolitan planning organizations, and council of governments, as well as reflecting regional interests and priorities. For our 6.2 facility section, this includes the rail station improvements that are in progress or scheduled. There are 7 for the New Haven line, 6 for the Waterbury line, Shoreline East has 1, and Hartford has 1. For highway administrative buildings, ADA improvements, we have 2 identified. For 6.3, the annual pavement program with curb ramps, the ADA requirements to provide curb ramps when streets, roads, or highways are altered through resurfacing programs. For DOT, we have 3 different programs: the maintenance resurfacing program, the pavement preservation program, and the pavement rehabilitation and reconstruction program. When DOT comes through with a resurfacing project, the following construction season will include the curb ramp upgrades where impacts were made. We have shown an image that depicts what our curb ramp database looks like and where a potential roadway project would come through. So the curb ramps that cross the state road crossing and are impacted by the paving job would be upgraded to ADA compliance. For traffic signals, this is 6.4. Since there are funding, manpower, and time constraints to improve accessibility at traffic signals, priority is given to those known locations where there are existing audible buzzers that need to be upgraded to conform to the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, MUTCD, and to those where known locations of visually impaired pedestrians travel. DOT is designing and constructing APS upgrades at signalized locations statewide, and with new accessible curb ramps being required where the APS features are. For many of these locations, there are acquisitions for right-of-way to install the sidewalk ramps and APS equipment. In Appendix W, there is a schedule of the planned APS projects. For section 6.5, bus stops and shelters, there's a new program that is created called the Bus Stop Enhancement Program that'll be installed by the department or the transit district. For the Bus Stop Enhancement Program, there is a pilot planned for 40 to 60 shelters. and with the installation of 700 shelters over the next 4 years. For this program, it will require a developed system to inventory all FTA-funded assets and ensure ADA compliance as well as monitoring maintenance. For section 6.6, this is the transit barrier removal programs. We also have included a section on paratransit, which is the service that is a shared ride advanced reservation origin to destination service for persons with disabilities who are unable to use the public bus because of their disability, provided in all areas where local fixed route bus service is provided, and included in the fixed route system are ADA bus stops. Section I or Appendix I for the transit district information is provided for reasonable modification. For section 6.6.2, this is regarding the ARIA pilot program that was an 18-month program between October 21 and April 2023, where 63 people participated using smartphone technology to enhance the mobility opportunities for people who are blind or have visual or low vision. For the app, it streamed live video to an agent who provided the subscriber with instant access to visual information regarding their surroundings. The agent uses the live video to narrate and interpret what they see for the user. Section 6.7 is the Community Connectivity Grant Program. The goal of this program is to make conditions safer and more accommodating for pedestrians and cyclists. The program is funded through the department's expanded capital plan and solicits applications for grants directly from municipalities ranging from $100,000 to $800,000. Now in its sixth year of funding, there have been 138 awarded projects totaling more than $62 million for investing in Connecticut's towns and cities. For section 6.8, this is the road safety audit and a safety assessment of existing roadway segment for use by all modes of transportation, including motor vehicles, cyclists, and pedestrians. DOT has completed 8 RSAs with another 9 pending since the last publication of the transition plan and over 104 RSAs since the program began in 2016. All the reports result in a final All the RSAs result in a final report that can serve as a planning tool for municipalities and their respective regional council of governments. For section 6.9 municipal ADA compliance, a statewide compliance assessment was conducted of the 169 municipalities to gauge where efforts are being made at the local level to identify what support or training might be needed. We received 100% participation from all municipalities and created a new program developed to offer support for self-evaluation and transition plans at the municipal level. With continued communication and cooperation between the department, municipalities, and council of governments and planning organizations, it's essential to create and maintain the pedestrian network free from accessibility barriers. Any entity that undertakes a project within the state right-of-way must address any permanent and temporary accessibility barriers that are impacted by the improvement. For our active transportation plan, this is 6.10. This section has been updated to include that the plan has been initiated a new 2024 update. This plan is a multi-pronged approach to meet the needs of the non-motorized cyclist and pedestrian population that will present projects and policies that will immediately improve the safety, connections, and accessibility for the residents and visitors of Connecticut. In this section, we have added a new subsection, the Safe Routes to School program, which has been expanded to include equity as one of the 6 E's that have continued efforts for students in all grades from K through 12 with and without disabilities to access school safely. Our next section is 7.0, plan implementation and trainings. For plan implementation, there are significant non-compliant issues and prioritizing inventories are essential. DOT anticipates ADA improvements will be ongoing for decades and priorities may change. Public comment and feedback on priorities are considered in prioritizing mediation. To allow flexibility in accommodating communities' requests, we have the following: petitions for reasonable modifications from persons with disabilities, changes in DOT's programs, ongoing evaluation and changes in the environment, funding constraints, as well as funding opportunities. DOT will continue to utilize TED, the GIS web app, to plan, execute, and track projects as a living asset for the ADA transition plan. Our 7.1 section, which is ADA training, annual training is offered for ADA and Title II for both design, policy, and construction and maintenance. It's offered to our DOT staff, municipalities, and external partners, and the appendix includes a list of the trainings. Between the last couple of years, we have offered over 60 different trainings. For section 8.0, this is the public outreach section. The customer experience of the Public Transportation Bureau conducted an action plan to identify areas to connect, understand a new vision and action that'll address the public transportation needs of the customer users. There were over 40,000, or there's 4,000 survey responses and comments from transit customers throughout the state received. The overall transit experience satisfaction rating from the survey of all modes was 7.5 out of 10. There were two areas under the 75% satisfaction rating in the survey, which included stations and stops and schedule and frequency modules. Section 8.2 includes the local communities and organizations. DOT is committed for accessibility and has included a new position for Head of Strategy for Cultural Engagement and Inclusive Communications. The department also partners with the community organizations for updates, trainings, etc. With this public outreach, we've included a list of disability organizations that were contacted for public outreach. There's also a new ADA anniversary and outdoor classroom event that happened for the first year in 2023 and continued this year in 2024 that allows for municipalities, DOT employees, other state agencies, and members of the consulting and planning communities to gather, hear updates from both the federal, state, and local level, as well as a number of different organizations and exhibits regarding ADA resources, requirements, and technical guidance. For our final 8.3 section, this is the public feedback plan for 2024. The survey results and summary of the outreach will be included in the appendix. For the first year, we are conducting both public in-person and virtual pop-up events for the ADA transition plan. We have 6 in-person public outreach events planned from Waterbury, New Haven, Norwich, Unionville, Hartford, and Norwalk, and 2 virtual sessions, which today is our last one. For assistance, please contact our email dot.ada transitionplan@ct.gov or by calling 860-594-2775. Public comment is open till the end of the day, Friday, November 8th. We also have 2 public outreach surveys, one in English and one in Spanish, that are provided via PDF online or via Microsoft Forms, which is a digital online survey. And with that, we'll turn it over to question and answer. And I see we have 2 questions in the chat. One is wondering about funds made available from the federal infrastructure bill from a few years ago and how it's being used by Connecticut DOT. What money was received and is being used in any of those programs? And then the second question is, I'll check out, but curious if the Citizens Coalition for Equal Access in Farmington is on that list. I'll answer that second question first. So for the Citizens Coalition for Equal Access in Farmington, I believe that's the location that we're going to in Unionville tomorrow with New Horizons. And we've been coordinating with Ruth Grobe on that. And then for the first question regarding the infrastructure investment bill, for the money received, we had a number of different programs that received an increase in funding. I know Karen, who is also on the call, might be typing an answer to that question as well.
So yeah, I was
But
starting to type, Katie, but so there is money that has from the federal infrastructure bill. We have put out obviously several projects, and they've also include removing those barriers wherever applicable in those projects. I just don't have a total at this time. I was trying to look through some documents, but I don't have a total as far as what was spent for those programs individually. We'd have to get back to you on that.
while we're on, I know this is a more broad aspect, but Federal Highway did have a bike pedestrian funding opportunity from the bill or the IIJA. Trying to navigate. Okay, I got it. Um, I'm gonna unpause my screen. Can you see my screen with the chart? Is it still sharing screen, Karen?
Yeah, Katie, yeah, it's still sharing.
Okay. So I'll drop this in the chat for everyone. But it does outline a number of different programs as well as what activity or project type could be eligible for where the increases were. I did want to note for some of the programs, these might be offered directly to the municipalities and not in planning organizations and not the department. So that one to highlight is the Safe Routes or the Safe Routes for All program. Um, but this was published by the U.S. Department of Transportation in 2023. Oh, well, thank you, Jay, for being on. And for those in the chat, Jay is the legislative liaison for Citizens Coalition for Equal Access. And if anyone is joined on the phone, if you hit *9, that'll allow us to see your hand raised. If you had any questions, I will also drop in the chat the link to our website, which is also shown on the screen, which is https://portal.ct.gov/dot/of-equal-opportunity and diversity slash transition plan and self-evaluation language equals EN_US. So we'll give it another couple of minutes if anyone has questions. Otherwise, this concludes today's presentation. The comment period is open through November 8th. Okay. And with that, we are closing the public outreach Zoom meeting for tonight. Thank you all for joining.